And I'm back. I didn't do a fan formula last week, sorry. I had mountains and mountains of work to do. I still do, but it's the last race of the season, so I feel like I can't miss fan formula 2 weeks in a row. I can't miss it when it's into Lagos, and can't miss it when it's a certain person's last race, in case you didn't quite get the theme that I have going on here. Okay, question 1. Do you look forward to the Brazilian Grand Prix each year because of the circuit and its racing, or because of the relevance it tends to have to the F1 Championship title battles? I think the championship title battles are just a bonus, because we saw last year, 2011, it was still an amazing race, still very interesting, and Seb had already won the championship, so I don't think it's necessarily just the championship. I think it's because of it's the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's the last race of the season, which is naturally going to bring some, amazing sort of, I guess, finales to the season, whether it be the championship or other drivers, because of just the changeable weather. You cannot predict it with Interlagos, as we saw this weekend. The track itself is just somehow just produces constant action, and the fans, Brazilian fans are amazing, and the atmosphere there is just absolutely fantastic, and the history of the track as well. And I was saying this on Twitter, how much I almost forgot how good non-tilt tracks were, and I know I'm complaining about tilt again, but it's just fantastic to sort of, and this is why I'm so against tilt tracks and new tracks, because they don't have the spark that the Brazilian Grand Prix has, that Spa, that Silverstone, that Monza, that Monaco has. They just don't have that spark, whether it be on track or the atmosphere. There's just, I didn't do my fan formula for Austin, but, everyone loved it, and it was probably one of Tilt's better tracks rather, but it wasn't. It was so gimmicky, the way that they just put together loads of different parts, they put, sort of the Beckett test and a bunch of different stuff from Turkey, and they put a bunch of different sort of best parts of other tracks, and they sort of recreated them, not that well, may I add, and put them in one track, and it just was, I just didn't like it. It had no character. It felt so false. It didn't, because, all these, the Beckett sets, they all they're part of the track's character. And same with, Interlagos, you got the Senna S's, it's all part of, each track has its own character. Monaco, personally, I find can be boring sometimes, but, when it is an interesting race, my lord, is it, fantastic. So, yeah, I think I look forward to the Brazilian Grand Prix each year because it's a Brazilian Grand Prix, if that sums it up. Question 2. What was your favourite moment of the weekend and why? It's kind of tough. It was a bit of a bittersweet weekend for me, as you probably have guessed, with the Schumacher paraphernalia around me. My favourite moment would have to be at the end of the race, when Seb, instead of going into his actual proper slot, parks right up next to Michael, jumps out of the car, sort of struggles a bit because he's trying to do it too fast, and the first thing he does is not go to the cameras, not to the fans, not pat the car. He just runs up to Michael and just gives him a huge hug, and that was so touching. It was so beautiful. It was, the respect that they have for each other, the admiration that Seb has for Michael. It was definitely my favourite moment of the weekend. It was so emotional as well. I didn't really expect it. I'm talking about it now and I'm tearing up. That's how emotional I found it. So yeah, I'll admit that I was leaning towards sort of Alonso to win the title a little bit, just because I feel like he's really done so well this year, but I had no issue with Seb winning. He totally deserved it as well. So it was lovely. It was fantastic. Question 3. The race was full of action, changing weather and strategies, but what do you think made the race so special today? If you don't think it was a good race, please explain why. I'm not sure who wouldn't think this was a good race. I mean, you have to be on crack to think this race wasn't a good race. It was, I think the first 12 laps were the most crazy moments. I mean, it rivaled Abu Dhabi this year. It was to the point where I'm almost like, calm down, I can't take this much excitement. It was just, I think changing weather obviously played a part, because of, sort of everyone was, I think Heikki pitted like 5 times, Michael I think 4, constantly changing from inters to, I think, hards or mediums. It was all going a bit crazy, and of course it turns out the one thing you had to do was just sort of not freak out and just stay on the same tyres, which worked out fantastic for Button and Hulk. I'll answer question 3 like I answered question 1. It was so special, I guess, because it was the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's just the championship title battle, obviously. And Seb started his race facing the track backwards and everyone driving towards him, and that's how he started the race, which won him the championship. Hulkenberg leading for a long time, and I genuinely thought he was going to. I think we all did think, he's going to win. The Force India's got some serious speed, and can I just say, I'm expecting amazing things from Force India next year, because we've seen what they can do. That really impressed me. And a shame that obviously Nico had that little slip and ruined his lead. But Interlagos seems to be his track. And there was Caterham coming 10th. And I was thinking before the race, I'm like, I bet Caterham's going to sort of grab it back at the last minute. They've been depressed for weeks now about not having 10th place anymore, how they're not going to be able to afford drivers anymore, and blah, blah, and this stuff. And I thought, I bet they're going to take 10th place. And they did. I'm not going to lie, I thought it was going to be Heikki who was going to grab 10th place, but it was Vitaly, so massive props to him. He impressed me so much. Perhaps for the first time even. Well done, Vitaly, and well done to Tasha for getting a retweet from him, by the way. I'm very impressed with that as well. Vitaly was absolutely hilarious after. Oh, actually, that would be my bonus question. I won't go on to that yet. And I think for the last part of this, why it was so special is obviously because it was Michael's last race. And so that's it, and he finished, and I was so worried someone was going to crash into him in the first lap, or the DRS would get stuck open, or a meteorite would freaking hit him because he has 0 luck this year. I don't know, I was freaking out so much about, just not being able to finish his last final race. Mercedes somehow ruining that, but he did, and he finished in 7th, and while I would have loved him on the podium and win, but there's something oddly fantastic about finishing in 7th place. I think to quote Michael, let's put it this way, I like the number 7. That was, and he somehow managed to recreate 2006 almost by getting a puncture in the first lap. And ultimately, getting lapped, and I was thinking, no, it's all over now, he's lapped, there's no way he's going to be able to unlap himself. I'm like, wait, this is Interlagos, the safety car better come out. Sure enough, it did, and I love this new rule about being able to unlap yourself with the safety car. It's fantastic. Well done, FIA, that's my ultimate favourite rule now. That was brilliant. And then sort of fighting his way back up the top despite having a subpar car, you know. Not top, 7th place, but I mean, considering how the rest of the season's gone, I will take that happily. Bonus question. What was your favourite F1 smart moment of the season? Hi Dad. Sorry. My favourite moment, F1 smart moment of the season. So yeah, I just sort of came to a revelation because I wasn't quite sure how to answer this one because I couldn't really think of any. My first thought wasn't really smart moment. It was more of a really cute, and it was in Monaco when Nico got second, and he was walking towards the podium, and he looked sort of like had a bit of a straight face when he was talking about something to his physio, and then he sees Vivian in the that was my dad, by the way. Yeah, I'm not. That's my dad. Yeah. Anyways, he saw Vivian sort of in the stands, and as soon as he sees Vivian, you know, he's smiling ear to ear, and he just sprints up to her and jumps like into her arms. They're just hugging, and they just look so happy. And that was going to be my moment. But then I just remembered that the amazing thing Vitaly was saying after the race, and you know, whole of the Caterham garage were just sort of. It was like they'd won the Constructors' Championship, getting that 10th place back. And he was, and like, so they're interviewing him, and I think he was saying, like, you know, like, they tried kissing me after the race because they were so happy, and then, like, again, they tried kissing him, and he was like, no, once is fine, twice is just getting a little bit creepy. But yeah, I count that as F1 smart, as the Caterham garage pouncing on Vitaly. I think that was my favourite F1, bless you Dad, my favourite F1 smart moment of the season, I think. And Tasha better watch out because I'm starting to become a Vitaly fan now. He impressed me a lot. Well done, huge props. My fan form is already getting pretty long, so I won't speak much about it, but you know, Michael is the reason I watch F1. He's pretty much the reason why I'm here talking, because if it wasn't him, I wouldn't be watching Formula 1, I wouldn't be part of Fan Formula, and I wouldn't be on Twitter, I wouldn't be on Tumblr, I wouldn't have met so many fantastic people through being an F1 fan, and more importantly, being a Michael fan. He's been in my life as long as my parents, you know, and he's taught me almost as many lessons, and yeah, growing up, he was Formula 1 to me. I didn't know any other names for a long time. It was just Michael Schumacher, and when I was younger, I didn't watch all the races because, you know, 2 hours is sort of a long time for, I think, a kid to sit down. My attention span would sort of take me elsewhere to cartoons. And I'd always ask, you know, where did Michael finish? Where did Michael Schumacher finish? And then, and then when he came back, that was just the most amazing moment. And you know, with Michael, it's just been so amazing being his fan. And the past 3 years have been tough, but I wouldn't have changed it for a second, because it was the few moments like Canada last year when it looked like he was going to be on the podium, and everyone, including his critics, were getting excited of the prospect of Michael being on the podium. And then there was Spa and last year on his 20th anniversary, and he's at the back of the grid, and he charges up to 5th place in that rubbish Mercedes, and that was another amazing moment. Monza last year, when he kept Lewis Hamilton behind him for 36 laps, and that was perhaps one of the most hilarious moments for me of that year. Just, it was so amazing to see that. Despite DRS and KERS, Michael was still able to sort of defend against Lewis for 36 laps. Some things, I guess not even technology can make up for. Then this year, he qualified well quite a few times, and obviously didn't go well in the race. But Monaco, without a doubt, has to be my favourite moment of his comeback. Just that fastest lap, it was everything combined. It was the utter shite fest after Spain, when everyone was crucifying Michael. He's too old for Formula One, he should retire, he should just quit now, let's ban him, all of the usual stuff. And it was hell those 2 weeks waiting to Monaco, and then Michael declares to the whole world he's going to start the race in 6th place after getting a 5-place grid penalty. And sure enough, come Monaco, Q3, he sets the fastest lap. And it was, I didn't even care that, on Sunday that he retired. It was just, that was enough for me at the time. And then, of course, podium in Valencia, and, I was as shocked as he was. He didn't even realize he was on the podium at first, and, with everything that was happening towards the end of the race, I almost missed it as well, but it was just fantastic. There's been, it's just, everyone keeps on talking about his reputation, that this 3-year comeback has ruined his reputation, but no one seems to understand that it's not about reputations. It never was about reputations for Michael. When he first started, karting, it wasn't about Formula One and about championships, about being the best, about a reputation. It was about racing. And, because Michael is a racer, that's who he is. And still, today, sure, it's more about Formula One than any other form of racing, but, in the end he came back not because he wanted to boost his reputation, but because he missed Formula One, because he loves Formula One, because Formula One makes him happy, because succeeding in Formula One makes him happy, not necessarily because of the reputation he gets from it. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing people saying he's ruined his reputation, because I'm sorry, how exactly does 3 years of driving in a subpar team after a 3-year sort of retirement ruin the reputation of 7 world championships, 91 wins, 68 pole laps? The guy, how does that ruin the reputation of the guy who literally made the record book, who changed Formula One to what it is today? I don't understand how you can think that this 3-year period has suddenly just written off his career completely. People can sit there and call him a cheater, call him an old man, call him useless, call him, disrespectful. Eddie Herbert can go on about how he still hasn't forgiven him since from 1994. And, Sky and BBC can, make snarky comments about his career every 2 seconds. They can, never give him a compliment, or if they do, they immediately follow it with an insult. They can do all this stuff. They can keep on saying mentioning every controversial thing he's ever done in his life, but I will never change the way that I and millions of other people feel about him. And I know I'm not the only one who grew up watching Michael win, who is going to really miss that. I know I'm not the only one who sort of is this emotional about him and about this retirement. And yeah, I'm just, if you hold a grudge since 1994, Damon Hill's gotten over it. The fact that Eddie Herbert hasn't is, quite frankly, the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. If you're holding a grudge for 18 years, I strongly suggest you find some tools, build a bridge, and get the hell over it, because that's just pathetic. I don't even hold a grudge from things that happened last year. I don't hold a grudge against, the 2008 season when Nelson Piquet Jr. rigged the race and pretty much destroyed the championship for Massa. I don't hold a grudge against him still from that. Get over it. You forgive people, because people make mistakes. Lewis made a mistake last year. Somehow BBC and Sky can forgive that, but not something that happened in, 18 years ago. You can choose what you want to remember. You can choose if you want to remember Michael as the guy who had bad judgment every now and then, or you can choose to remember him as, how he puts it, as someone who just never backed down. And that's how I'm going to remember him. And, he taught me a valuable lesson, that just never backed down. And I will carry on I spent my whole life defending him, and I will carry on spending the rest of my life defending him, because nothing gives me more joy. And I will stop talking about Michael. If you want, I did write a piece about Michael. It was 3,000 words, but I condensed it sort of just for like a smaller, I think about 1,000 words, just because no one has the time to read over 3,000 words sort of about a driver perhaps they're not even that fond of. So yeah, if you want to read that, I will put that in the description, just sort of about his career, like briefly in general, and his comeback and this whole reputation rubbish, my feelings about it. And yeah, so please feel free to read that. I will greatly appreciate it. Any feedback from that. And thank you for listening.